7:42 now, Alabama's Morning News. I'm JT, and joining us now is a political analyst, commentator, Young Voices. David McGarry is back. David, welcome in. Happy Friday.
Good morning. Happy Friday to you, sir.
So we were just talking about old Rashida Tlaib there, and Democrat from Michigan who got voted in by her community there, and all pro-Palestinians and all pro-Muslims and all anti-Israel, apparently. And she is just on fire for slamming Israel in this whole thing and flying her own Palestinian flag in the United States Capitol. What is wrong with this picture? I mean, doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that this is the U.S. Capitol. There ought to be an American flag flying there, but that's another discussion. Let's talk about what happened here with these Republicans voting against censuring her for what she's been doing out there, screaming lies about, Israelis blowing up hospitals.
Yeah, so we had a resolution to censure Rep. Tlaib go down on a procedural vote, and I think the real lesson coming out of this is that we need our congresspeople and our lawmakers and our policymakers in general to do a better job with the motions and the legislation that they put forward. And let me explain that. So many of the 20-some Republicans who voted to kill this censure motion did so on the basis that the motion had a lot of dubious facts included in it. It was not well constructed. It said that primarily one of its claims was that Tlaib had engaged in insurrection, which, however abominable her comments were, I don't think anyone truly believes that she actually had done so. And I think that if we'd had a better motion put forward, there would have been a much better chance of actually getting the necessary Republican votes to get it across the finish line.
Well, I talked to Congressman Gary Palmer here from Alabama, and there were 23 Republicans that voted with the Democrats to not do this. But I said, why would the Republicans, we are so good at not pulling together as a team, but why would these 23 Republicans do this? And his response was, a bunch of them I talked to said, First Amendment. I mean, we're getting into a slippery slope here. If we do that to her, then here we go. In fact, they even came back with a retaliatory censure against a Republican from Georgia, Marjorie Taylor Greene. So First Amendment, I'm not buying that.
Well, I don't necessarily buy the First Amendment concerns either. The First Amendment obviously protects freedom of speech legally, but when we are dealing with members of Congress, that is obvious. Like serving in Congress is not a First Amendment. It's not necessarily a First Amendment protected.
Right.
This is the Congress can do a little bit of culling of its own herd. It can maintain certain standards within the body, and so I'm with you. I don't fully buy the First Amendment arguments either. However, what I will say is I think you hit the nail on the head when you talked about the motions that were brought against Rep. Greene. This is retaliatory. This is a political food fight to a certain extent, where as soon as Democrat gets singled out for a motion, they're going to come right back and hit a Republican. And as soon as it became clear that Tlaib's censure motion had gone down in flames, immediately, wouldn't you know it, the Democrats pulled their motion to do the same to Greene.
You got these members of the squad that are so far left, so far in Marxism and socialist, just out of control left, and almost to the point of, their goal is to completely destruct the United States of America. But when you bring that garbage into the U.S. Capitol, as you mentioned, that body has some leeway in culling its own members. And if you step out of line with basically the foundation of the United States, and even Democrats don't really... I say that, and then I start thinking about the squad. The majority of Democrats are on board with, being in favor of the good old USA. Okay, but it's the squad and the fringe there, the George Soros-backed DAs that won't prosecute criminals, that I think there's some serious intent to break down and bring down the United States of America that has been known to be strong, and operating from a position of strength is where we maintain control and safety. And, just sovereign nation. You start breaking all that down, you see what happens. It's chaos around the world. Nobody's worried about the White House and the strength of the United States, because the push to be weak is starting to really ring louder than anything else with these crazies.
Well, I'll put forward a slightly different theory. Here in America, we enjoy a historically unprecedented amount of freedom. We enjoy an historically unprecedented amount of prosperity. That's all come from our values and the Constitution and our history. And this has allowed people to get so disconnected from reality that they can advocate all sorts of crazy policy positions, and they can sort of just take leave of basic reality. And then here we are suddenly.
Take leave of sanity, take leave of common sense. Yeah, I agree with you. You're right. We were so good at allowing people to do things, and be free about it. They just went nuts with it.
Right. And I think, I think that's a really remarkable accomplishment that we've gotten to. And I've heard someone say once, one of capitalism's biggest problems is that it works too well, because it lets people play all sorts of games and shenanigans with the free market, and still we see that America has produced higher GDP per capita than any other country in the world, that's with a few exceptions, most of which are petrostates. The freedom machine is a really, truly wonderful thing to behold.
Well, I'll tell you, with all this craziness that's happening around here and the lack of God in people's lives, I mean, we have lost the foundation of what this nation was, started on. The values, the Judeo-Christian values, to, stay in line with what God wants us to do. And, those founding fathers prayed. And my gosh, you mentioned prayer today. You're a hater. Somebody came out just yesterday and said evangelical Christians are a bigger threat than Hamas is to the United States. It's like, what are you talking about? These people are completely lost their ever-loving minds. Well, buddy, I appreciate you. Thank you, David McGarry. Keep up the good work. Political analyst with a young voice.